So, what is the harsh reality of traveling to Thailand for the first time?
So the number one thing that I been having issues with is communication, because of language barriers and stuff like that. When you go to like these local areas, a lot of them don't really speak English. So making sure that you have, a translator downloaded offline to be able to communicate, with the people of Thailand, really anywhere you go. Um, that's a really harsh reality because when you're trying to get something or try to talk to somebody about whatever services they have, it's kind of hard. And sometimes it can get a little embarrassing, especially like today. We went to the tech mall that's over here right by our condo, and you had to get like we were trying to get food, and you had to get a little card, put money on the card, and then you scan the card at the food stall. Well, like it was kind of hard because like the lady was trying to tell me this and I didn't understand this, so she kind of like sent me over there. And then I was putting the money in. I guess they didn't have enough bills, so they had a bunch of quarters came out because I put too much money in there. And yeah, it was a lot, and a lot of language barriers and stuff like that. That's been a struggle for me, but I am working through it. We've been just diving right in and figuring stuff out and communicating the best we can, and we still get to where we need to go and get what we get. So yeah, communication.
Yes, and then the a big harsh reality for me is definitely the walking. So we are more in like the east,
Residential area,
yeah, residential area,
outskirts of Bangkok.
yeah, of Bangkok. And coming from Texas, especially living in like a retirement city, Central Texas, Killeen, we don't really do much walking. Okay, like
You have your own car, you
right,
transport through your own car, good parking spots, everything like that. Here, they're like you could have a car, but as foreigners, we don't really have a car. So you relying on public transportation is a lot. And our bus stop that we have to go to for most of our buses is like a 9, 10, 11 minute walk. And then even to the BTS or the MRT, that's an 11, 13 minute walk. And you have to walk all the way down the street and everything like that. And we're not used to that. And we have to do that on a daily to get anywhere we want to get to. And then also walking around like the temples and walking around Bangkok once we actually get in deeper into Bangkok. It's just a lot of walking in general. And where we're from Texas, we don't do a lot of walking. I have my own car, we just drive everywhere.
yeah. So it's been a lot on my feet. Now, luckily, we were able to get massages and things like that, and we even got a new pair of shoes from Thailand. But consistently walking, obviously, it's going to be a little bit difficult the first couple of days. But now my feet are actually starting to feel a little bit okay. But just letting you know, guys, when you get here, be expected to walk because getting a grab, getting Bolt, and things like that, that actually does add up over time. If you're planning on being here longer than like a month, then probably the cheapest way to get around town is going through a bus
Or
or a
BTS or
BTS.
MRT, which is
Yeah,
their subway here. Using public transportation is the cheaper route being here, so that's why you walking to those areas, those destinations, and then sometimes even being on the BTS or being on the bus, you have to stand
most
because
of
there's
the
a
time.
lot of times you either first of all you have to allow disabled people to sit down first. They have priority along with pregnant women and children and stuff like that. They have priority. So most of the time, like the most time that we've been here, we've been standing most of the time when we get on these buses and these trains and stuff. So that also um, makes our feet hurt a lot more. So just expect to either stand a lot or walk a lot to get wherever you want to go. Now, if you have the money to do a grab or a tuk tuk or a motorbike, because that could be a cheaper route too. But there's two of us, and a motorbike you usually just have one person. Um, So yeah.
Yeah. And if you're traveling on a budget, I highly recommend learn like what's the app that you got
Oh, I
for.
have the app Move It, like Moovit. I had to learn how to use it, but it kind of helps you kind of lay out of what buses to take, what stops to take, or what stations close to you if you want to take the BTS, or what bus stop is close to you, so that way you know. And it also tells you like the bus number and where to get off at, and it actually tracks you to just kind of like a GPS, so you know when to get off if you can't really read where the bus stop is at. That's a really good app that I've been using. I know there's like a SkyTrain app too that you could download. They have the QR code there at the BTS station. But I just use Move It because it kind of tells you like from this bus to you get on this bus to get here, or you get it from the BTS to the MRT to get here, and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. So definitely important to get that. And then what you'll realize is if you actually take the buses, you'll realize that a lot of locals take the bus.
Mhm.
Like I don't really see too many locals getting grabs or what even using the taxis or the tuk-tuks. That's normally like a tourist type of thing. But a lot of the locals are actually using the buses because it's the most affordable, and obviously they're here longer because they live here. So it makes sense for us to just kind of do what they're doing, you know. Now first, like when we first started riding the bus, we did get a lot of weird looks like, oh well, how do they know about the bus, you know.
Yeah.
But we're used to it now. um there's pros and cons with that too, with really any type of form of transportation. If you get a grab, obviously the pro is you get to sit down and you get to ride in the car, you know. But a
Yeah.
con is it
Mhm.
adds up over time.
Yeah.
The pro with taking the public transportation is it's
It's
cheaper,
cheaper,
but the cons is it's a little
especially
bit
during certain,
uncomfortable.
yeah, during
Yeah.
certain hours it could be very uncomfortable, only because like during rush hour everyone's getting off of work, just like back in the States there's rush hour. So but this rush hour everyone's like jam packed, and you're literally like back to back with people, and you might be almost sitting in somebody's lap. So there is pros and cons to it. But I mean, at the most part, it is like it might be jam packed, and for United States, it might like people might feel like overwhelmed or claustrophobic and stuff like that. But like when we were on there and it was during rush hour and we're like sardines, we're back to back and stuff like that. We Everyone was calm still though. Like all the
Yeah.
locals are used to this, and they just it is what it is type of thing. So that kind of helped us stay calm and collected too, and be like, okay, it's okay. This obviously still always happens, stuff like that. So it kind of made us stay calm too.
All right. Now let's go on to our next harsh reality. Excuse me. Our next harsh reality is the clothing size. Now we're Americans, and we're bigger.
In the states,
We're bigger.
I'm a medium. Here, I'm a large, sometimes an extra large.
Yeah.
So they do run a lot smaller. And then even with the shoe size, because here I am like Bigfoot, okay? And I have to go to basically where the men's are to do it because I'm a US 9, okay? But here I am not a 9.
Yeah, I mean, even with my clothes, I mean, in the States, I'm a large. Here, I'm an extra large. Sometimes I'm a 2XL. But, it's just be prepared for that. So if you are a bigger person, make sure that you, I guess, bring extra clothes. Like, it's like, if you're bigger here in America, then overseas, like in Thailand, it's
They
going to be a
might
little
not
bit,
have your
yeah,
size.
it might be a little bit harder to find your
Mhm.
size. even with shoe size as well. If you're a guy watching this and you're wearing like a 14, 13, it might be a little bit harder to find a pair of shoes that are in your size in Thailand.
Mhm.
Same thing for a woman. If you're watching this and you're like a size
10,
10,
11, finding
11,
nice women's shoes.
it's going to be very hard to find.
Because you could still get, for women like me, we could still get shoes here, but it's mostly like men's shoes, not women's shoes. So like we were at a market the other day and we were in this stall and I found some gorgeous shoes and they were very feminine shoes. They had pink, pastel colors, stuff like that. And they said it was a US 9. I put that on. That was not a US 9. Okay. And when I started finding my size, I only really found like boy style shoes. So it's just, you got to figure it out. Okay. So this is my shoe. This is as girly as I was going to get. Okay. Green and black and white. And it's still really cute on my foot. But compared to Maury's shoes.
No, show them how the size. What's the size that
it's US 9.
Oh, it's a US 9. Okay.
It's still a US 9 on here. But what they were advertising was a US 9 was not a US 9. But so if you're really looking for shoes, you got to look at the tag itself and not the sign that they put up. So yeah.
Yep. So,
and see, I got these 4 days ago. This is how much walking we've been going. Dirty. Okay.
Yeah. And then another harsh reality that I'm gonna actually add now that I'm thinking about it. If you are a melanated person, if you're black watching this, be very careful with the beauty products that you buy, because a lot of them have whitening,
like the face masks.
Yeah, a lot of them have brightening and whitening kind of ingredients to it. So if you're really like skin color conscious, be careful about that and really read the ingredients. And some of the dead giveaways, it will say like whitening or brightening, and if you don't want to brighten your skin, then
even if it doesn't say whitening, it might still have whitening in it. And it might still have whitening in it. So you have to really look at the ingredients on the back. Sometimes they're in English, sometimes they're not. That's why it's really good to have a translator where you can video. I have one where you can video and it can read you, like it will label it with the English on there. And if it says like there's a bunch of different, you got to look it up, but there's a bunch of different little like ingredients that could be in there, and that's what you're looking for to know if it's going to lighten your skin or not. I think yours is going out. Yeah. Well, here, you just talk on this.
Yeah, so just be very, very careful if you are if you don't want to lighten your skin, okay? But I just thought about that. Let me see if there's anything else that I can think about, any other harsh realities. One thing I will add, and this is kind of something that we got right, but the visas. So a lot of people come to Thailand and they're not, I guess, how can I put it? They're not prepared for what are the different visa requirements. And luckily enough, Sam made sure that we were prepared with our e-visas, which really helped us get a smooth entry into
Thailand.
Yeah.
Because with the e-visas, they already basically have all the paperwork that you would need for the visa exempt. Now, when we come back, we are going to Vietnam for a week, but when we come back to Chiang Mai, we're going to be visa exempt, going through visa exempt, and then that requires you to show proof of like onward travel or funds and stuff like that. So it's like you got to make sure you have the proper paperwork. If you can come to the Bangkok without a visa, through visa exemption, just make sure you have the paperwork with you, so that way it's easier for you to get through immigration versus not knowing that you like what paperwork to bring and stuff like that. So I highly recommend just do the e-visa, only because even if you're visa exempt, only because it'll be way smoother through immigration. You're not going to have like this stack of paperwork to try to show them proof that you can come in. All the requirements are through that. Once you get the e-visa, there's a QR code that they scan, they pop up all your information, and it's just smooth sailing. Without that, and you're trying to do the visa exempt, it is a little bit much of a little process. Sometimes they ask you, sometimes they don't, about your funds, proof of onward travel, stuff like that. So it is easier to just do the e-visa beforehand, so that way it's just smooth on in. But if not, just have those paperworks ready to show them in order to get through immigration pretty smoothly.
Yep. And so that's all we got as far as kind of like the harsh realities of being in Thailand. But other than that, I mean, Thailand is a beautiful place. We've only seen Bangkok so far, and we just started look like actually doing stuff, but it's already been a lot in a good way.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah.
still enjoy ourselves. So
Yeah. So also another thing, if you're traveling on a budget, just be very, very mindful that yes, everything is quote unquote cheap, but at the same time, be
it adds up
it,
over a while. So
yeah, it definitely adds up. So just keep that in mind and try to set yourself a daily spend budget and do your best not to go over that budget. So, but again, there's so much beautiful things to see here, but we just wanted to shoot this quick 16-minute video going over what are some of the harsh realities, just so that way you can be prepared when you get here. All right. So, with that being said, if you need any help with traveling to Thailand, we actually came out with a free travel checklist for Thailand. So, be sure to check that out in the description down below. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. See you later. Bye.